introduce the feature relative ISTD. Now, when using isotopically labeled compounds, this is sometimes called true ISTD. And sometimes in a word that I will avoid, this is called semiquant. So, normally the term ISTD means ISTD correction. But here, with relative ISTD, we're meaning that the isotopically labeled ISTDs are used as a calibration reference internally. Now, another important distinction I'd like to make is about the calibration table. The normal use of the term ISTD and ESTD quantitation refer to building a calibration table or a calibration curve. With relative ISTD, you do not build a calibration table internally. You use the ISTD as a calibration reference, thus the term true ISTD. A relative ISTD analysis is to assume that the response factor of the ISTD is the same as the target. So in the case of a deuterated or carbon-13 labeled compound that we're using as the ISTD analog, this assumption is quite valid. The ISTD analog has almost indistinguishable physical properties. So even though the chromatographic separation does not occur, the mass spectrometer can see these two compounds as separate because of the mass difference. In terms of nomenclature, if you are willing to assume that another compound of the same class has the same response factor as your target, with relative ISTD, you can assign that other compound as the target's ISTD, and relative ISTD will calculate a concentration relative to the known ISTD concentration. This is the origin of the term semiquant. With the drugs of abuse batch, which has the normal calibration curve and ISTD correction, that's quite typical. We are going to change this now to use relative ISTD analysis. So, let me first clear the calibration curve. So I will clear calibration for all the compounds. Now there is no calibration curve. Now go over to the method editor. Here I have the compounds. And what I'm going to do is to go to the globals setup. And looking at the globals, I have a choice on a batch basis to turn this into a relative ISTD analysis, and that's what I'm going to do. So I will go back. I still see my cocaine and my cocaine deuterated ISTD. Let's see what happens when we go back now and apply this method and then analyze it. Now the first thing we're going to notice is that there is no calibration curve that appears, because I don't really need a calibration curve. I notice also that there is no accuracy that's determined, because that's not relevant here, so I can certainly remove that column. But I still have my target signal and my ISTD signal.